Announced on Twitter on May 16, 2017, with the game releasing on PC on November 14, 2017, and at a future date for the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch, we have Harvest Moon Light of Hope. This game marks the fourth, or fifth if you include Harvest Moon Lil Farmers on iOS and Android, game in the Harvest Moon series to be handled by Natsume after parting ways with Marvelous, who went on to continue their games under the Story of Seasons name. The game was developed by Tablet Incorporated and published by Natsume. The game also marks the 20th anniversary of the Harvest Moon series, with the original releasing outside of Japan on June 15, 1997. This also marks the first time a Harvest Moon game has been released on PC that isn't a browser-based game or a Facebook game. In this game you play a self-insert farmer who washed up ashore on an island after a storm. Once you come to, you're introduced to Jean, a woman training to be a herbal doctor as well as the lighthouse keeper of the now broken lighthouse. She explains to you that after a big storm hit the island, most of the people living in nearby Beacon Town moved away after the storm had damaged their houses and the lighthouse. After learning of this fact, you instantly decide that this is the place for you and you offer to live there. You're then taken to a farm that's conveniently on the outskirts of town and your farming life begins. In this game, not only are you growing crops and raising animals, you'll also be repairing the town and getting the island back to its former glory with the ultimate goal of restoring the lighthouse. Along the way you'll meet many other folks, all of them returning from Harvest Moon Skytree Village on the Nintendo 3DS, as well as its DLC. And as well as befriending them, you might even find that special someone to settle down and start a family with. The game appears to once again appeal to the nostalgia factor of the Harvest Moon series, especially since it's celebrating its 20th anniversary, but how well does it achieve that? More importantly, is the game any good? Find out in The Good. The game has the basic Harvest Moon formula, with your farmer tilling the soil, planting seeds, watering the seeds, and then harvesting crops. And the crop mutation feature introduced in Harvest Moon The Lost Valley on the Nintendo 3DS makes a return. Unlike in the Lost Valley and Skytree Village, where crop mutations factored how high the seeds were planted, as well as what terrain they were grown in, crop mutations can be based off what fertilizer is used on the crops in combination with the terrain, which is something I quite liked. The game also has the feature introduced from the Lost Valley where you don't need to switch between your tools for farming. So if you come across a tree, you no longer have to equip the axe to cut it down, as the game will do that for you. Raising animals works very much the same way as previous games in the series. You feed them and take care of them, and they'll give you their produce. The Poitou donkey from Skytree Village returns and can produce fur for you. On top of that, brown chickens, brown cows and pink sheep were added to the game with the interesting feature of producing candy eggs, chocolate milk and cotton candy wool respectively. Outside of crops and animals, you can also give presents to the villagers to raise their friendship or affection with you, as well as partake in activities such as mining and fishing to pass the time. Throughout the game year there's contests and festivals you can participate in with the townsfolk, though the festivals are very simple at best. In terms of the basic Harvest Moon formula, I think Light of Hope has done an adequate job on this. The game seems to have more of a focus on collecting different items as well. Over the course of the game, in order to repair broken areas or buildings on the map, you may need to have certain materials. Some materials may not be available until you've upgraded your tools, which in turn might require materials that aren't available in the season you're in. Other times the materials might not even be available until you complete the game. I think the game encourages the player to go out and grow all sorts of crops, have a variety of animals, and to go fish or mine to keep themselves busy, as well as having the items needed to sell and keep, whether it's for repairing the island, requests from the townsfolk, upgrading your tools, or even to continue with the story. This aspect is also a double-edged sword, and I'll go into that a little bit later. One thing I've found that they've addressed is the passage of time in the game. Unless I've decided to make my farm super huge, I could easily get a lot of my jobs done prior to contests, and the game now pauses time while I'm in barns or coops, so it makes feeding my animals a lot more manageable. The upgraded tools also makes the process a lot easier, and once you get the final upgrades for the axe and hammer, trees and rocks that would have normally done a number on your stamina can be broken with ease. This change in the flow of time is a huge improvement, especially when compared to Skytree Village, or even Seeds and Memories. To counterbalance this, time no longer stops while in the mine, so I couldn't spend huge amounts of time there trying to reach the bottom floor. While the game does feature the harvest sprites, they don't appear to help you on your farm, but I think with the speed of time being slowed down, it wasn't a problem to me. Natsume really seemed to have thought about this, and I think it's good to see them taking some feedback on board. But this is where the good stops and where we move on to the bad. It's really not a good look when I first started up the game, and it was prompting me to touch the screen. Thankfully that was quickly patched up, but some issues did remain throughout my playthrough of the game, and some of it ties into collecting materials that I had mentioned in the good earlier. Late into the story you're required to get items from your farm in order to wake up a harvest sprite. The other sprites provide you with clues as to what to gather, and from what I've learnt from them, I need to get some higher quality wool, a yellow dahlia, and a yellow perch. Well, interestingly enough, I had all of those items on me at the time, but I couldn't proceed. Turns out it was an error on the game's part and I needed to actually have a pink dahlia on me in order to proceed, and I only found this out through sheer luck since I went to the Harvest Goddess's Spring one day with one in my bag. I'm hoping by the time this review has gone up, this issue has been fixed. I also found that one of the requirements for marriage was to provide Melanie with some materials to make the wedding dress and tuxedo. The game requires you to give her 3 orichalcum ores, 2 great cotton candy wool, and 2 great silky fur. Unlike requests and upgrades where having a higher quality item means that you need less to complete the task, in this instance you need to strictly provide Melanie with 2 great cotton candy wool and 2 great silky fur. Nothing better, nothing worse. As the animals that give you those materials only produce them every 3 days, you'll have a better chance of getting them through save scumming, or in other words, save before you get the materials and then reload the save if you didn't get what you want. The game has gotten wise to it, so saving is disabled in the mines and during contests too, but being very particular on items needed for certain quests when requests from villagers and building upgrades are more flexible doesn't really make much sense. I would have been happy to give Melanie higher quality materials to make the clothes from instead of being forced to wait until I get a certain rarity of material to give to her. Hell, even the marriage side of things took a while to do. In previous games you propose using the blue feather and you'd be married in a week. In this game you have to get the blue feather from a blue bird on a clear night, propose, get the materials for the wedding clothes, wait a week for Melanie to finish making the clothes, then wait another week to get married. I suppose that sort of reflects how getting married in real life works. The game also hints that Melanie can make clothes for you, and dialogue in the game suggests that you can change clothes at your dresser in your house, though I don't see such a feature. Whether Natsume are leaving this for DLC or what, I don't know, but with customization options in older games, I don't see why they removed those in this game. I also found the game a bit on the short side as well. I was able to complete the game by fall of the first year, and if I had some leftover strawberries back in summer, I could have finished the game a lot earlier. This is a problem that the game shared with Skytree Village, and personally when it comes down to the story, I would rather have a place with an already established town where the goal of the game is to restore the farm within 3 game years, or else it gets torn down for some corporate planned building or attraction, but I guess that's the nostalgia part of me talking there. I also felt in this case the townsfolk never really actively got involved with the main plot, with the exception of a couple of them, but you'll know why when you get there. In Skytree Village I recalled having to rescue someone as part of the main plot, and in the Lost Valley, reuniting Sally with her mother Naomi was key to its plot. Funny enough, it even gets referenced in this game. While Harvest Moon as a series isn't new to recycling characters, this game pretty much features the entire cast of Skytree Village, which in turn had a few characters from the Lost Valley, and by extension Seeds of Memories. As a matter of fact, the character models were pretty much lifted from Skytree Village and upscaled for Light of Hope, and look unusual to scale with objects and places in game, which looks blurred in close-up scenes. Though admittedly graphics aren't generally the biggest thing for me to worry about in a Harvest Moon game, the sheer contrast with 3D models on weird angles with buildings or furniture was just a bit jarring and took me a while to get used to. Admittedly I would definitely take this over what we got with Seeds of Memories. And just while I'm here I'm just going to go off on a tangent, but I have no idea why they took the sickle out of Light of Hope. It's an absolute pain having to pull weeds one by one, where in previous games you had a sickle that could cut weeds, and when upgraded it could cut multiple weeds and make things a lot easier. With that, I think I've rambled long enough, so it's time I give the opinion. My thoughts on Harvest Moon Light of Hope are a bit mixed. The game certainly maintains the core mechanics of Harvest Moon, and after noticing how fast time passes in the game, I can certainly see Natsume making some changes in the right places. However, as I've said in the review for Seeds of Memories, they still have quite a way to go to compare to Story of Seasons. With the way things have turned out, I think Natsume have certainly taken half a step forward. I'll suggest the idea of crossbreeding seeds again, and hoping that someone from Natsume is watching this and thinks it's an interesting idea to add to a new game. But just having the core mechanics of a Harvest Moon game and the exact same cast as Skytree Village isn't quite enough to fully satisfy me. Perhaps looking at some of the later games for inspiration instead of drawing from the original for nostalgia might be in order. As for price, I think for what you're getting it's a bit on the high side when compared to Stardew Valley, and I would consider looking into it when the game is on sale. On a more positive note, Natsume are slowly getting there, and I'm still somewhat interested in seeing what they might have in store for us in the next Harvest Moon game. If you like Skytree Village or are new to the Harvest Moon games, then I'd say give this game a go. Especially if you're new to the Harvest Moon games, because this game gives you a good idea of how the mechanics work. So with that, it's time for my rating. Harvest Moon, Light of Hope, still doesn't get a turnip in its rating because it's still missing out of 10. I guess a red cabbage will do, since it's like the green cabbage I gave Skytree Village, and like the green cabbage, it's still a cabbage at the end of the day. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.